應該見到估下我係一個新嘅 account。我而家玩 Troll Girl， 睇有冇 Troll
Have you ever heard of Cinderella? Well, I've got something to tell you. Evil stepmothers are not just in fairy tales. Before you go on calling me dramatic, you have to hear my story. My
girl。
stepmother
另外
makes
一個
Medusa
account 叫
look
做
like an
Troll
absolute
Girl
saint. Get ready for a story full of
1098。
tears, crime,
我
and
哋
a
整
whole
好
lot
呢
of
個
gore.
間先。
You're probably wondering, what's so evil about court? Trust me, you'll know by the end of the story. You'll just have to be patient. In the meantime, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. If you don't, your worst enemy will win the lottery. You don't want that, right? Not that winning the lottery is always a good thing, though. That's actually where all of my troubles began. See, when I was 5, my mother left my father and I. She never gave a reason, apparently. Just left a note and walked out. I don't even know her name. I don't remember much about her from my childhood at all, but I do remember my dad. My dad was charming and perfect in every way. He was a complete gentleman to everyone. Although he wasn't the most handsome or fit guy, he was a plumber and women wouldn't look his way. It was just us for years, and I loved it. Then, $2 changed our lives forever. We were walking and saw a scratch ticket on the ground.
我哋
We
呢
figured we should try to play, so we picked it up and scratched it. We were only expecting to win $1 or $2, but we ended up winning the jackpot. $5 million. I was super happy at first. I had no idea just how different our lives were going to be. My dad bought a mansion and a pony, and he invested the rest, quickly tripling his fortune. We were rich beyond our wildest dreams, and people started to take notice. It wasn't long before my dad was dating again. At this point, he could have had anyone he wanted. For some reason, he chose Taylor. Taylor was young and pretty, and it was obvious she was only after my father's fortune. But my dad was too love-struck to see the obvious, and always told me I was just jealous of him dating. There was this one time she asked me if I wanted to help buy a gift for my dad. I agreed, thinking she wanted to do something nice. I gave her $6,000 to go towards buying him a new watch. Well, she came back from shopping with a $20 watch from the gas station and a $6,000 dress. When I confronted her, she told me that she dressed up for him and her looks were the gift. Yeah, I think that particular event was the beginning of the end of my tolerance for her. After that incident, we were always fighting. We could barely be in the same room. I wanted my dad to leave her, and she wanted to keep mooching off of his fortune. My dad and I fought a lot about Taylor. Eventually, we decided it was best for me to go to boarding school. It felt like he was picking her over me, and I was hurt. I still feel guilty about what I said the night before I left. He said he would miss me, and I told him he didn't have to. Just make Taylor leave. Who do you love more, her or me? I shouted. He refused to answer, so I told him I hated him and ran away. Instead of saying goodbye or telling him I loved him, I woke up early on the day of my flight and took a taxi there by myself. I texted him, letting him know I would text him when I arrived. Unfortunately, I would never get the chance to say a proper goodbye or tell him that I loved him. In fact, I hate you was the last thing I ever got to say to him. Turns out, when he got the text, he was so upset that he decided to drive out to say a proper goodbye. Sadly, he never made it to the airport. He got in a huge car accident. I was still at the airport when I got the phone call and left the airport immediately. I even left my suitcases behind. Sadly, by the time I got to the hospital, he had already died. I was devastated, but you know who wasn't? You guessed right, Taylor. All she could think about was what was in the will. It was actually the first thing she asked me when she saw me at the hospital. So, do you know where your dad keeps the will? I was so angry, but I kept my cool because I had some information that would hurt her more than any insult would. Yeah, I do, and he left nothing to you. I laughed. She nearly passed out on the spot. When we got back to the house, I pulled out the will and everything was being left to me. Her face went pale like a ghost, and she ran out of the room while dialing the number to her lawyer. I have to admit, I got some satisfaction from her panic. Sadly, I did not get the last laugh. After she talked to her lawyer, I did not see or hear from her in days. She didn't even come to his funeral. I thought I had won, and she was finally out of my life. I couldn't be more wrong. Turns out, she had spent all that time away searching through the whole will for any type of loophole. Unfortunately for me, she found one. On the day of the official will reading, she was there with her lawyer. She had a smug look on her face that made me super suspicious. I waited to see if there was anything I missed, or maybe something she changed. But no, it was all going to me. Then the speaker said something that made me fall out of my chair. Literally. Do you know how in medieval times, if a prince became a king during his childhood, someone else would step in as the ruler until they were a full adult? That's kind of how the inheritance worked. Until I was 18, my guardian would be in charge of my funds. When the speaker asked who that was, Taylor raised her hand. My jaw dropped, and I immediately said that wasn't true. She was just my dad's girlfriend. She smirked at me and whipped out a paper. If I'm not your guardian, then what are these? She asked. They were adoption papers, like fully legal adoption papers. And to my horror, my signature was at the bottom of the page. I tried to say I never signed anything like this before in my life, but Taylor insisted I was grieving. Nobody believed me, and I was forced to drive home in the car with my least favorite person in the world. She told me there was going to be a lot of changes in my life. She told me that I needed to work around the house and get a job to pay bills to learn responsibility. She also disenrolled me from the boarding school I wanted to go to. I was super mad, and I said I wanted to be as far away from her as possible. She told me she had already booked a one-way ticket to a boarding school in another country. She wouldn't tell me the name of the school.
但係食個好難。哦哦
天台唔能夠為你遮風擋雨，
，broken。
立邦屋上水池超。
And didn't give me much time to pack. At first, I thought this was because she was trying to get rid of me. It became all too apparent what she was trying to do, though. Let's see how long it will take you guys to figure out the plan she had up her sleeve. When I arrived in the country, I was greeted by a woman holding a sign with my name on it. She looked very scary and strict, just wearing dark sunglasses and a large black jacket. It all seemed straight out of a horror movie. I told her I would just drive to the school with a taxi, and that's when she told me that I would follow her or else. She was scary, and I did not want to know what the or else part was. Honestly, one of my biggest regrets was not just standing my ground. She walked me over to